Wow, everyone. Prepare yourself for an amazing conversation. We've got Mike C-Roc, a performance expert, visionary entrepreneur, and founder of That One Agency, the #1 podcast booking firm in North America. He's the host of the That One podcast and's been a guest on over 2,000 shows. He's a visibility powerhouse, helping elite entrepreneurs, athletes, and thought leaders build personal brands that convert. He's shared stages with billionaires and presidents and built global recognition, mastering the art of turning credibility into cash. He is known for removing excuses and unlocking quantum growth. C-Roc connects clients to the platforms and people that accelerate your success. If you're not playing all out yet, he's going to make sure to help you get there. With that said, we've got Mike C-Roc for you. Welcome everyone to the Power Up Your Life podcast, brought to you by GoBundance Women. I am Kelly Resendez.
And I'm Mandy McAllister.
And we're so excited to have my friend C-Roc here in the house with us. He never fails to bring a lot of energy and enthusiasm and amazing wisdom to the table. So welcome, Mike. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Kelly. Thank you. Mandy, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, we'd love to hear a little bit about your journey into really creating that one and you know, an epic life that you get to live.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was in the mortgage real estate business for 20 years and made a lot of money and had a lot of success. I had a business with 3 of my best friends I grew up with since I was 10 or 11 years old. But I hated it. I hated it. I came home miserable, and I did it for years and years and years and just kept climbing success, just pounding the pavement for more business and more revenue. And come home to a house on the water, beautiful wife, 2 healthy kids. And it was just, something wasn't right. And I just started thinking to myself, like, I got to figure this out. I feel trapped. And when I hit 40, I was like, I can't live the rest of my life like this. So I decided to make a change. Things don't change unless you're willing to change, right? And I just started really exploring like who I am and what I'm here for. And why was I put on this planet in the first place? And that's how this whole journey of that one started to, catalyze.
Oh my goodness. Amazing. And tell us a little bit more about what that one is in your words.
So in that process of finding out who I was and starting to move, and being mentored by some of the top people on the planet, just being around these guys that have had super success, but they were also dialed in to their mission and purpose. You could tell. I started, I was being told that you got to get known globally. If you want to make an impact, you got to get known globally. And, I hear a lot of people talk about this, some things, and I think they're shortcutting themselves or short-siding themselves. They'll say, if I could just impact one person. And I don't believe in that. I believe that, if you have the ability, you should be trying to impact as many people as possible. And I think when we say that, if I can just impact one life, I think it's like letting ourselves off the hook so that we don't have to figure it out to go to where our potential is. And so I was told to get known globally by one of my mentors. And I listened to him, and he said, go get on podcasts. That was Grant Cardone. He said, go get on podcasts. And I said, all right, which ones? He said, all of them. And I said, all of them? He said, all of them. I said, but I don't know how. He said, you don't need to know how. You just need to commit. Because when you commit, you'll see the how, and you'll be willing to do the how. But if you don't commit and the how shows up and I tell you how to do it, you won't do it. I said, all right, man, I'm all in. Let's go. And he said, now just go get on podcasts. So I went to my assistant, Kim, who's our ops manager at That One Agency now. I said, Kim, we need to get on podcasts every day. And she said, she said, how? And I said, I don't know. We just got to commit. We just got to do it. And then what happens is I found out a formula from doing this though. And here's an actionable step. So if you're taking notes, write this down. Intention gives your attention direction. You see, we only have so many attention units that we can spend at any one time. But yet there's trillions of things, beyond trillions of things that we could be paying attention to at any one moment. But in order to find out the right things that are going to move the needle for you to pay attention to, you have to set a clear intention. Once you do that, you start seeing things that were right in front of you all along that you didn't know. And what I found too is that if you don't set an intention or it's not clear, you will serve an intention. Your attention will be directed by an intention, but it's not going to be yours. And that's when people get depressed. They have anxiety, feel misaligned, drink, do all different kinds of destructive behaviors is because they're living off someone else's intention and they know it subconsciously, and then they won't be able to explain their feelings or behavior because they just don't understand the formula. So intention gives your attention direction. What happens is your attention starts paying attention to validate your intention, to things that validate your intention. And then you actually create your own universe that you live in. There's a big giant universe we all live in, but then each and every one of us, based on our consciousness and awareness, has a universe we live in every single day. And what's creating that is your attention, what you're paying attention to. So I started seeing podcasts everywhere in my network. And I started reaching out to my friends in my network. Hey, let's get on your podcast, man. Let's shoot some content. Let's light your podcast up. And I just started stepping into someone that lights podcasts up before I even did a podcast. And I started going on and I would just have a conversation with people, bring energy. And that led to more podcasts, bigger stages, speaking in front of masterminds and retreats. And before you know it, I'm speaking on stage with some of the biggest people on the planet, which led to hanging out in the green room with these people. And then I noticed something. What Grant was talking about when getting known globally, it'll create an attraction model versus chase model, which most people are in. And this attraction model started to have these people pull into me and they felt like they were cool with me and they felt like I was a peer. And I noticed that. I'm like, this is powerful, man. I can't keep this to myself. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't have a filter. I share stuff too much sometimes. But I had to share this with people. I had to tell people about this. And so what I noticed with these folks hanging around these folks in the green room is that they all became that one by standing out. And how do you stand out? You find out who you are. You find out what you're put here for. And you know your insecurities, your weaknesses and strengths, and you lean into it unapologetically. And that separates you. You're not better than everyone else. Yeah. You're just different. And different is what matters. Differentiation is what matters. And so there's two things. This is another thing you want to write down. This is a very practical thing as well. There's a survival behavior and a non-survival behavior. Survival behavior is differentiation. Okay, this goes for you being differentiating. And it also goes for you paying attention out there and differentiating people versus identification. Identification is a non-survival behavior, and identification is identifying with a group of people or with other people. Here's an example. So I had a first grade teacher, and she was mean. And as a 6-year-old, I remember her. And I remember her traits. I remember her smell. I remember her voice. And as I got into, let's say I'm 40 some years old and I run into a lady and I'm doing business and I run into a lady that reminds me of this first grade teacher. The smell, voice, the way she acts, her demeanor. And then I treat this lady and this experience the same way that I would that first grade teacher, which was like maybe shudder, pull back, get anxiety. The vibe would be off. It wouldn't be a good vibe to do business with someone, help someone and serve someone. And so that's identification. That's identifying that lady, that customer prospect to a first grade teacher that reminded me of her. That's a non-survival behavior. So it works out looking out in the world and it also looks for yourself. Differentiation is a survival behavior, thriving. And so I noticed that. And that's how I came up with the brand That One. I just said, well, when you become that one, that's where success comes.
There's patterns in everything, right? Like you're never the first one to do anything. If you become that one in anything, just look at anybody else who's done something and been the leader in whatever they do. There is a pattern to be followed. And I totally resonate with this idea of if you're going to be climbing a ladder furiously, you need to make sure that ladder is up against the right wall. And it sounds like you absolutely realized the mortgage wall was maybe not your wall. So, yes. I'm curious to, the person who hasn't yet found their wall, right? The right thing to be running after. When you're stuck around finding where you should be going, what do you do? Or what patterns have you seen other people employ to get unstuck?
Well, there's a thing called confrontation, confronting. And most people avoid confrontation. They avoid confronting things in their life. And when you need to confront something, you'll start to feel it. Right. And it gives you, you just know there's a anxiety that comes with it. There's some kind of feeling. And the longer you take to confront something, the more pressure builds up. So confronting something could be a tough conversation you have to have with someone. And that tough conversation is something you need to lean into as soon as possible, because what happens is pressure builds up. And the longer you wait, the tougher that conversation is going to be. Or there's going to be ramifications from not having that conversation. So or dealing with a misaligned job that you're in, a career, right? And so we're all forced to confront at some point. That it's a universal law. Confrontation is required. It will be dealt with at some point. It's whether you're going to take action sooner than later or voluntarily versus force. And so what I advise everybody to do, and what I've seen is that those that confront that issue, that feeling, and become self-aware of what's going on and assess the situation, they have the ability to confront it. And once you confront it, it's like a weight comes off your shoulders. You're clearer thinking and you can move faster.
Oh, so good. So good. You talked a little bit about mentors. So we all kind of recognize that this is a big piece, like really just finding those people. Talk a little bit about who has, who has really mentored you in your life, and how did you find them? And then what impact have they really made for you?
So as a kid, I had mentors like coaches. My stepfather that stepped in to be my dad when I was around 11 years old, 10, 11 years old. He was a mentor in a way, not with money. He wasn't really good with money, but he told me these simple, taught me these simple lessons like do good. He had a deep voice too. His name was George. He passed away in 2019. But he said, he would say, do good, good things happen. Right. And, you gotta, face the music. You want to dance, pay the piper. You gotta pay the piper. Or he would say, what was the other one that he would say? It was, something like, shoot, it's up my mind. He would have all these little like one-liner things and it stuck with me. Then as I got older in business, I would have people that I would work for and I would look up to them and they would mentor me. I had a sales job when I was 21 and a guy named Joe was a mentor of mine. He had a great family, great marriage, two wonderful kids. And he made his own mistakes and all that. He taught me from his mistakes what he learned. But I would watch at that age, in my early 20s, I would start watching these mentors and I would see what I aligned with and what worked for them. And I'd be paying attention, not just what they said, but what they did. And then I would learn from them. I would take the good stuff and then I would leave the bad stuff. But then as I got into the business world, I got around some people that I was looking up to that weren't the most ethical. Okay. And I fell into this thing because I saw them super successful in business. There's a lot of people that have success in business and they're not as ethical as they should be. Right. And they're going to face the piper at some point. And it's the same thing, confronting. But I fell into some stuff, early on where I was doing things that I thought at the time I was like, man, that's how it works. But it wasn't the right thing to do ethically. And then I got into a point where I had money taken that should have been mine. It was taken. Long story. I'm not going to get into, but I didn't press the issue with it because I knew inside that I didn't do the right things. I started to realize like I needed to learn more, better ethics. Right. And so there's times where I had to pay the piper. Like George said, you want to dance, you got to pay the piper. You do good things happen. Do bad things happen. And I started realizing these lessons were costing me a lot of money and a lot of heartache, a lot of stress. And that was keeping me from going to the next level and continue to go and keeping me from quantum leaps, which I talk a lot about. And so once I was in that and started on this ethical path and I wanted to be the best version of myself, I would start reading books and I would be mentored from afar without the mentor even know that they were mentoring me. And I would just immerse myself in the ones that I felt like a good energy from. And again, taking the good and leaving the bad, because not every human beings are flawed, right? So all human beings, you put them on a pedestal, they're going to disappoint you. But I would take the good stuff and then I would apply it and it would work. And then I would pile on and then compound it. And so Grant Cardone was a big mentor of mine early on. And I got everything I could get out of him. And then eventually like books and not him not knowing who I was or that I was even being mentored. And then I started, entering into that world and being around them, trying to serve, do business with them, introduce them to people. And then you get attention, you get known, and then you keep showing up, and they start paying attention to you. And then other people see that. And then that's when proximity kicks in. So yeah, that's the process.
I love it. I love the idea of starting with values or principles. It becomes this filter through which you can just put everything to decide what the next right step is. when you're this idea of being an entrepreneur in general, it's super unconventional. You have to be willing to zag when other people are zigging in the world in order to find whatever level of success or be that one. I want to know from you, what's an unconventional strategy that most people would think is crazy, but that you know to be absolutely true?
The first one that comes to mind, I'm going to share. That is commit before you have it all figured out. Because most people don't move. They don't do anything because they think they have to have this plan. And it goes back to the lesson that Grant said to me when he said, get known. And I said, I don't know how. He said, you got to commit first. Commit first. I still do that to this day. We're getting ready to have an event this weekend and Kelly's going to be attending. And I just had this vision and I started moving in the direction and committed to it. I had no idea how to do it. I mean, I had probably had some ideas of things I was going to try, right? No idea how it was going to play out necessarily, but I had the vision. So I just started going, and then things happen, and you have things happen that are unexpected, and you have things that come, oh, I didn't know that, or this is going to cost this much, or you have a capacity issue. All these different things come up, and we just, hey, everything always works out. That's what I tell myself. Everything always works out. Keep going, dude. Keep going, dude. And then we just figure it out on the fly. So commit first, figure the rest out later. If you try to figure it out and then try to take action, you hear all these things. It's unconventional because people say you got to have a business plan. You got to have a plan of action, blueprint. No, you commit first and then you start developing this thing, taking action while you go. And that's been the biggest success for me.
That's awesome. Talk to me a little bit more about what you see quantum leaps are. How do you describe that? A lot of us have heard of the quantum field, quantum physics, other things. How has it applied in your life in being able to create, the level of success you have?
Yeah, quantum leap is when something happens that you don't expect to happen to the degree it happens, the level it happens. We all chip away at a goal. We expect different levels of achievement. Chip away. But if you're not open to something happening beyond your imagination, whether it's somebody coming into your life that you just hardly can believe, or if it's amount of money that comes your way and you can't even explain it, I've seen all of it. And the problem that most people have is they put it on a pedestal like it's a luck, a happenstance, coincidence. But they take their power away from causing and creating it because they believe that it was something by chance or coincidence. What you have to understand is we were put here and built by a creator, all powerful God that created us to be creators. We're made in the likeness and image of him. And when you really understand that and you start having a relationship, I have a firm belief and faith in God, and I'm never afraid to share it. I'm very convicted. And when you start to realize that we're put here as creators, you start to realize that, wait a minute, I'm the one causing and creating these things, good and bad. And when these things happen, if it's bad, it's not that I'm on the wrong path necessarily. It might be that I need to learn something.
Yeah.
And then taking that lesson and then keep going, dude. But when it works, understand that you did something right. And then let's put the pedal down on that one, right? Put some rocket fuel on that.
You're going to keep getting that lesson until you learn that lesson, So for the person who's yeah, that's nice, Mike, that's cool. Quantum leaps, that's something that can happen to you, but that's not me. What do you say to that person? How can they prepare their brain or get more open to limitless possibilities?
I would just tell them, yeah, you're right.
Ooh.
So, I mean, whatever you believe and say is true, as far as I'm concerned, to you. It's your relative truth, right? And it's kind of contradictory because truth is truth. If you don't see it and believe it, you won't, or you don't believe it, you won't see it. It's just the way it is. So if somebody comes to me, I'm not going to try to talk them into it, but I will be a living demonstration and showing them what happens. And then, everything that we do, we went to New York a couple weeks ago and we filmed content because it's not to show off. It's not to just promote necessarily. It's to be a living demonstration of what you can do and accomplish. And I promised early on when I started building my brand that I was going to show the journey. I was going to be transparent with the journey so people could see it. There's been people that have watched me from the beginning when I first said, I'm starting a podcast, I'm going on podcast, I'm starting a brand. People closest to me would say, you're going to have a podcast? Or they would throw digs like, hey, why don't you go do your podcast or something? and they would make comments. And then if I said I had an amazing introduction to someone, I met somebody amazing, I had certain success, I would share it because I'm so excited, which is a mistake, by the way. And they would be like, oh, really? Okay. And I thought that they should be excited and congratulate me and excited as I was, but they're not, because they reflect upon their level of commitment to their dream. And you don't get the feedback that you're expecting. So I stopped sharing the stuff. I just let the stuff show. And there's a cycle that happens with that. And people at first act disinterested, throw digs at you. Then they go away because they just lose interest. But you keep going, keep having success. They start peeking back in again. And they're like, what's he doing? What's she doing? And then you keep going even further. And they're like, I told you about him or her. I knew it. So there's this whole cycle that goes on, and I'm very familiar with it. Yeah. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. So obviously success leaves clues. And what daily disciplines or habits do you have in your life or business that you really are like set on, like your non-negotiables, like your 15 minutes, right? That you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very good at consistency, actions that are consistent and piling them up so heavy. So I was on a podcast the other day, I was interviewing a lady, and she was talking about, when I was interviewing her, like, yeah, we just moved up to 2 episodes a week. And she was so excited about it. And I'm like, congratulations. That's awesome. You know? And then when we got off and it was that the recording stopped, she said, so what do you do? And then I said, I have a podcast, an agency. I was going into it. And she said, well, how many podcasts like do you do? And I said, well, we do 5 to 10 a week. She goes, wait a minute, you mean 5 to 10 episodes of your own show? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, why do you do that? And I'm like, what do you mean? Why do I do that? Like, where's that coming from? Right? Like, why do I do that? I said, you know what the answer was, right? Anybody can guess what can guess what I said back to her?
You got me there.
Because I can.
Yeah.
I said, because I can. And she's like, wow, like that's crazy. And I'm like, to me, it's not crazy. I feel like I should find ways to do more. But so everybody has a different level of thinking, right? And then they reflect on where they are and what they believe is possible for them. And then they portray it onto you. And you got to be really, really conscious of this because it can affect you.
Oh, before we move on, just share a little bit about what you do with your 15-minute minis, because you've made a big impact in my life in doing and suggesting that you do that. So tell us a little bit about that habit.
Yeah, so it goes back to 2020 during the pandemic when we were locked down. We all can relate to this, right? And if you could just imagine a guy like me that loves people, loves connecting, loves serving, being stuck in a pandemic and lockdown, I just wasn't having it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing little speed networking calls with amazing people. And how? I don't know. I'm just going to commit. I'm going to figure it out. Created a Calendly link, 15mini.com, and linked it to my calendar, scheduled on my calendar blocks where I was willing to do these things. And I started reaching out to mutual friends of mine. I was getting connected with a lot of people, but also a thing called perfect strangers. Perfect strangers are people that I have identified that are making an impact in the world. That when I'm on Instagram, I'm hyper intentional, looking for people that are making an impact, that are serving, that people that I would want to hang out with, right? And I wouldn't even think twice. I would just DM them. Hey, I love your content. Love to explore connection, collaboration. I have a great podcast we could talk about having you on. Let's hop on a 15-minute call over the next week or two. And people started answering. And people started answering who were very accomplished people, even celebrities, athletes, billionaires. I was just blown away, actually, to be honest with you. And then they would book a call, and it got so popular, I was doing 5 to 8 a day, Monday through Friday. And I had to decide when things started to open back up, whether I wanted to continue to do it or not, because it was taking up a lot of time. But I couldn't help it. I couldn't help keep going. I still to this day do 5 to 8 a day because we've raised over $15 million from those calls. We've connected a lot of people to people that they needed for their business or life. Collaborations happened. Businesses started that have done millions of dollars. And of course, a lot of podcasting and massive network expansion, which allows me to serve more. So that's why I keep doing it. And the call is based on a framework of finding out what people are working on right now that has them excited and what their vision is. What this allows you to do is allows you to actively listen to this and then speak into it when it's your turn. And you can shape what you're sharing, your story, or what you're doing and where you're taking it to feed into helping cause and create a future for them, which is the most attractive thing you can do for someone, is cause and create a future for them.
That's amazing. Well, I wish we had more time today, C-Roc, but I think my biggest takeaways are number one, just the commitment that you need to make before you have it all figured out is huge. And then really just connecting with as many people as possible. I think that's how the quantum, leap works, is that you never know when that call is going to open up something bigger. What about you, Mandy?
Oh, there was a couple that I really loved. That intention gives your attention direction. That is so incredibly important. And it's something I say in a different way. And I really love this idea of being a living demonstration, living in my own values in a big way. And living in our values in this big way, we always like to, serve those who serve us. So, C-Roc, tell us, our listeners or us, what is an introduction or a resource that changes the ball game for you? Something you're working on that we could help serve?
Yeah. So in business, most of the time we're thinking about individual transactions, right? Onesie, twosies, onesie. I always think to myself, and this goes for business networking, it goes for all these things. How can I get multiples? How can I serve multiple people? How can I get more efficient and effective? So for me, I'm always looking for people that have other communities and networks that could use access to what I have access to so that I can serve their communities as well in multiples, because there's only one of me. So I'm always looking to leverage time, expertise, systems, process, networks. And so for me, that's somebody that has multiples to serve.
Yeah. And you did an amazing job coming into GoBundance Women and sharing how we can build influence through podcast guesting, which is really what that one does. So how can our listeners find you if they want more information on podcasting or being on your podcast, whatever it might be?
Yeah, that one connect.com, the number one connect.com. You can check us out at the agency. And then also on Instagram, Mikey C-Roc, MIKUI-CROC. You can check it out there. You can DM me. You can check out the content that we put out. And that's the best way.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Power Up Your Life podcast. If you love this episode, don't be afraid to share it. Thank you so much again, C-Roc. And if you want to really just level up your business, you can check out powerupyourlifenow.com. Tons of resources, including podcast guesting. And so we will see you on the next episode.